Right then, bit of a different video, seeing as we're in a new decade. We sort of had an idea that we're going to do a bit of a review on 2019 quite a few weeks ago, but it appears that everybody on YouTube seems to be doing that, so hopefully it's not too cliche, but we'll see. So basically, we had a mental 2019, so we'll have a little look back and see what happened. So, the January 2019, we just got our A5 project, and that was the first time I ever did a vlog. So, people watch that one back, maybe things look a little bit, the audio's definitely rubbish, and maybe the visuals are not quite as good, and maybe I'm not as confident in front of the camera, not too sure, but that was the start of good things to come. We gave Jerome's Ibiza away. That went to the customer in France. Not heard much from him, to be honest, so hopefully he's going to use it this year, but we'll see about that one. Rob's Fabia, that we'll show in a bit more detail later on. That's that got a magazine feature, or we at least shared the magazine feature at the beginning of the year. And we also went on the first track day of the year at Donington Park. That's where we took the Ibiza and the City Go at the same time.
Look who it is!
So, February, on track in the Ibiza at Ulton Park, and the wheel bearing collapsed and the wheel came off while I was driving.
Wheel come off or something. The wheels just come off.
That weren't much fun. February also, the month, so we'd only been doing the vlogging for probably 4 or 5 weeks, and the demand for the Audi Quattro stuff came in so thick and fast. We had to get a 4-wheel drive dyno, and at that time, dropped on through a friend of a friend, that sort of thing, dropped on a 4-wheel drive dyno that I thought was going to be a quick case of just go load it onto a truck and come back. That weren't the case. It was smack in the middle of a storage locker. It looked like an episode of Storage Wars, or snipping padlock off this locker and getting it out there. But that could be another vlog in itself if I'd been on the ball. So March, not much went on in March that I can really remember, but it was a bit of a sad day for Scott, because he got rid of his SQ5 then. He'd had that probably a couple of years at that point, which is probably the longest he's ever kept a car. We got rid of that, and I think that's in new hands again as of this month. So April were another busy month. That was the first race in the Track Day Championship, and we did really well there. Straight out the bat, the Ibiza were just absolutely perfect. Came first in that race, really happy with that result. And then we qualified P1 in the Track Day Trophy race. So we did 2 races in the same day. And then it was my turn to swap over with Scott. First corner, first lap, Scott thought he was going to try and win it. Spun, and then he had everybody who were behind him having to disappear around him. and unfortunately a Civic, EP Civic, just went straight into the side room and T-boned it, which then had a knock-on effect for my race licence later in the year, but it is what it is. But that meant for the next round we had to do some big repairs to the car. Ended up having a new sill on it, new roll cage, door bars, but luckily Scott weren't hurt, so I could lay into him while we were sat waiting for the race to end. That car was stuck on infield, but that's what it is. We got the eroser on the dyno as well, and that did 633 horsepower, which was the most we've ever actually been able to get out on the dyno. It's definitely more than that now, but we just can't get it to hold down on the dynos. So the end of April, sort of mid to end of April, we got the ambitious task of taking the A5, which had only just really been built and only just tested on one of the previous track days with the new brakes that we custom made, the brackets and bells and everything. That drove, Scott and Paul drove that to Spa, Belgium. The brief to Scott was, take it steady, because we've got the Nürburgring trip booked, where we've got some tuition and some vlogging that we wanted to do while we were there. Got a few messages from Paul saying Scott must be enjoying it because he was staying out for 45 minutes and an hour at a time. And then Paul went out with Scott and said he's definitely not taking it easy. So, yeah, Scott don't listen. But we had some good, or they had some good fun there, should I say. So in the meantime, while they were at the track day, we just waited until they'd finished. Then we got in the van, me, my dad and Steph, my older brother. We got in the van and drove to Hull, got on the ferry with the Citigo on the trailer, heading towards the Nürburgring, and Scott and all the M4s were going to meet us there. Absolutely amazing weekend. We stayed in Sabine Schmidt's cabin. It's like an hotel, sort of log cabin. Absolutely amazing. I think it were on Timber Kings or something like that, from a Canadian company. They built it. Amazing sort of few days. Probably one of the best track days that we've done. Even though the Nürburgring absolutely scares me to death. Really good. Not planning on going back too many times, but we're definitely going to be collaborating with Misha more. So check out his channel as well. So in May, obviously we'd had the problem with the track day championship, so the track day trophy with the Ibiza. We had the track day championship race at Snetterton, which is a track we've not done tons of. It was the first ever track day that the Citigo went on, because the guy who owned the Citigo before us, he run a track day at Snetterton. But not a track day, not a place that we've been to since then, I don't think. So because of the delays getting the sill welded in, and then we had to get the roll cage in after the sill got done, and then we had to get it painted all after that. It were a ton of work. We missed the testing on the Friday. The race was on the Saturday or the Sunday, I believe. But we missed the testing. So we had to go straight into qualifying with the car only just having been rebuilt from that crash, and Scott was just way off pace. 2-3 seconds, something stupid like that. Subsequently, we found out what the problem was. When the side impact had smacked the car, so the engine had moved about that much, it damaged the differential inside, so we weren't getting any locking action from the diff. It was basically acting like an open diff, which at Snetterton, there's loads of tight corners where you need a diff to be working, because then you've got a long straight after pretty much every tight corner, so it didn't work to our advantage. I think Scott came something stupid like P15, which ridiculous compared to the first race. After that disappointment, we took the eroser to Santa Pod. We went on a closed event because we've been so busy with getting the other cars ready. We'd not actually made it to any of the shows that year, which we're a bit disappointed about. But we had a 2-day event there. It was a closed track. I think there were only 10 or 12 cars running or something like that. But Red Victor were there trying to set the new world record for the street car, which is, it's not much of a street car anymore, but it fits in that category. and that was the first time out. We'd done a few little tweaks. I went not too crazy. We've not even rebuilt the engine, just a few tweaks to the car and the chassis, and straight off the bat we beat the world record, and spent a bit of time chasing it, to be honest. And then we did find that we'd got a problem with the engine, and the valves had been touching the pistons because the cutouts were only just big enough, and then when the valve had swelled and the piston had not quite swelled as much, we got a tiny bit of interference. So we found that problem straight after, fixed that, ready for next time. The end of May we put a video up at a customer's borer, 400 horsepower, and that's still our highest viewed video, over 300,000 views on that. It sort of showed that the PDs sort of not a dead horse, that have been getting flogged still. We're getting a lot of people still interested in that, so thank you to everybody watching that. So June ended up being quite a steady month for us there, so the highlight really from that month, we tuned three 640Ds, one after the other, and all of them did over 400 horsepower, so that was quite an interesting month, because usually the 335Ds, the X-Drive stuff, they're normally 380s, 390s, so nice to see that the rear wheel drive stuff does a little bit more. The reason there weren't too much else happening that month, the track day championship race was cancelled at Silverstone for the resurfacing works that ended up being done twice, which is a bit crazy, and they're still finishing the resurfacing works, and we come to that later on. So July were another action-packed month. For everything we didn't do in June, we tried to do it all in July, it seems, just how it landed. We did a track day at Ulton Park, nothing too crazy happened there. Usual Ulton Park, where it can be a little bit greasy at times if it's been wet, and then it can be really good, dangerous Nürburgring style fun if it's dry. Really good track, enjoyed that. In between that testing and the race, we went to Castle Combe, which is a track we're going to be returning to this year. I opened the championship race there, because I've never raced there. So I went to Performance German Day there, took a load of cars. That was the first time the Ibiza had ever been on track. The new shape, common rail yellow, the yellow one that we run about in, which I pretty much use daily. And that was the first time we had that on track, and that really surprised me, considering how good it is on the road, how good it was on the track as well. So we did sort of, after that, get some plans in his head that we'll put a bucket seat in it and take it on more track days, but we quickly realised we've got enough going on, as you can see with the amount of cars we've already got and what we're doing for the rest of the year. We never got round to that. We took Steph's caddy to that track day at Castle Combe as well. We're going to be doing a video on that and the Yellow Ibiza very soon. The caddy's just right for more power. We're going to do a lot to that, and it's had a lot of modifications already, so that'll be quite an interesting video for most people, especially people wanting to take things a little bit further. So after that track day at Castle Combe, on the way home, we went to Caffeine and Machine, which is like the car nut's dream at Stratford-upon-Avon. If you ever want to impress your missus, take her to Stratford-upon-Avon and romance her there, and then on the way home, try and call in at Caffeine and Machine in the evening and get some of their nachos and just watch all the fancy cars that people turn up at. Really nice. Car park's massive, so even if you've got a trailer on, we had no problem. Loved it. So then we had another track day at Brands Hatch, and on that track day did a little bit of testing in the cars, and then afterwards we met up with Nick and picked up his Leon project that he had and a golf project, both of which I had sort of slight reservations of, because we're trying to win a championship, not to build more cars mid-season. But Scott got a little bit excited and paid for the golf, and then the Leon, that was sort of loaned to us off Nick. His idea was that we were going to get it ready for the 2020 season and campaign it then, and then give it him back at the end of the 2020 season. But we had other ideas on the way down. We sort of hatched a plan, and on the way back up, after looking around the car, we cemented that plan and realised we We were doing pretty well with the Ibiza already. We'd come back to where we needed to be. So we were going to get the cars ready earlier than we originally planned. So then later that month, we were back at Oulton Park racing in the Track Day Championship, and it was absolutely pouring it down with rain. The testing we'd done previous was damp and dry, if I remember. Damp then dry. So everything we'd learnt from the car were all thrown out of the window. So we had to quickly hatch a plan, because we'd not really had that many wet track days this year with all the new setup on the Ibiza. So we had to quickly hatch a plan on how we're going to get more grip. So we disconnected the roll bars and played about with some suspension settings. And we just went out, and it was just ridiculous how much grip we had. I can't remember exactly what we qualified, I think it was third or fourth, something like that. It weren't up at the pointy end. The guys who did qualify good were in Clio Cup cars, which they'd campaigned for a while, and they were definitely better drivers than Scott. So, but when it come to the race, then Scott just did everything right, did nothing wrong, whereas the guys up ahead, they started making silly mistakes and getting penalties and stuff. So we ended up winning that race. Really happy with that. Obviously, going from a win at Donington to 15th for something stupid at Snetterton to then winning at Oulton Park. Really happy with that one. Then we did a race at Oulton Park in the Ford KAs. Now, the reason we started going down that path was because Scott basically ruined my chance to gain my race licence for the race that we needed to do later in the year, that you've got to have a National A licence, which means you've got to have done 6 races and not crashed or got any penalties, or any bad penalties. So we had to do this KA race because it was I think a 6-hour endurance. If you do more than an hour and a half, I think it is, in an endurance race, or the race is more than 2 hours, you get 2 signatures, which is the same as doing 2 races. So we did that race, and we raced alongside George at Air Supply. If you need any compressors, ask him. But we did that race alongside him. He normally races against us in the Track Day Championship, but it were all good fun. And the Track Day Trophy, it were all good fun. And we did really well. We came 3rd overall in that, which I think 2nd was definitely possible. But I had a bit of an hard time going the right way around the chicane, and one of the times I think I might have done my fastest lap by mistake, cutting the chicane, and that got us a drive-through penalty. So we managed to come 3rd anyway, which was, considering I'd never drove one of them KAs before and not done much racing at this point. This was my first race, and only my probably 3rd race I'd ever done. Pretty happy with that result anyway. And the lap times, Scott will probably never admit it, but probably quicker than his anyway. So I went out with the Arosa to TOTB, and we've always had good results at that race. Even despite, I don't know why, there's some cars that are probably able to beat us that don't turn up there, but you've got no traction at that track at all. So it does take a little bit of work trying to get the car to at least hook up a little bit. We've still not done everything we can do to make that as fast as we can, but we still won that event anyway by a country mile. We did like 167 mile an hour in the half mile, which for a car like the Arosa is just ridiculous. Really happy with that. Got quite a few trophies that day. So then on to August, another busy month. We took the Ibiza to Silverstone GP in the Track Day Trophy this time, so it weren't a championship race, so this is one where me and Scott can swap over. And in that race, you've got a free tyre choice. So we put some Yokohama AO 52s on there, which we'd never really done much testing on the Ibiza before. And we got our first pole position, beating everybody by quite a margin, about a second or so. So really happy with that. Completely shocked everybody coming up in the pits asking what we'd done, why we'd been cheating and stuff like that. But then we'd found really the spring rates on the Ibiza, because of the extra grip we got from them tyres, we needed to go up a little bit of stiffness on the front springs, but we'd not got any with us at the time. So we ended up playing it safe for the 45-minute race and putting some Dunlop Durez's on there. So I think we ended up coming 3rd or something like that in that race. So not the result we'd hoped for, but first pole position, happy with that. So then on to some more racing. The Enduro Ks were back out at Cadwell Park, which our championship never went to Cadwell Park, and we'd not had a chance to race in any of the other race series at that track, and I really wanted to race there. sort of mini Nürburgring. Rewards you and punishes you on a very fine margin. So went out in the KAs again, and we're doing reasonable, but then again I get quite a lot of penalties. Pardon me. Cutting a corner, I didn't realise I was cutting after the mountain. Got loads of penalties for that, and then I got another penalty because I had a drive-through for speeding in the pit lane, which turned out to be because they'd put the wrong signs up in the pit lane, 60 kilometres an hour instead of 30 kilometres an hour. So my fault for not heeding the warnings in the briefing as such, but I'd never ever been through the bottom pit lane before, so it made sense to only do 30 kilometres in the top pit lane where everybody was stood, but when there's a 60 kph sign up and nobody in the pit and nobody stood in that pit lane, it made sense. But anyway, it is what it is. My fault, hold my hands up. But that would come back to haunt me later on, that I got that penalty on the records. We also went to Brands Hatch in the Track Day Championship to the GP circuit and had a really good result there as well. Not quite where we wanted to be again, but had a really good result. I never drove there at this point, so I really wanted to get there. Scott did well. I didn't go down with them that weekend, but really happy with the car. Showed that we've still got promise and we're definitely in the running for the championship again now. So September, we had the Track Day Championship at Donington Park. This should have been the GP track, so the testing we'd done previously in the year, we knew for this track, the GP tracks, it's got the extra 2 tight bends that we needed to have the plate diff in there, so we had to swap the gearbox pretty short notice. The plate diff didn't arrive in time with the preload settings we wanted. And then when we got to the race, there weren't enough marshals and they swapped it back to the national track, which we'd done testing before on the plate diffs and the quaif sort of helical diffs, and it makes absolutely no difference really at Donington Nationals. If you've got a good setup, slightly different alignment settings for each one, but anyway, I digress. So a bit annoying, we'd done a lot of work leading up to it, but we still had quite a decent result there anyway. Didn't quite win it like we did last time, but we're battling a fair bit, and I took George there with me to watch. A really nice day for me, really nice hot summer's day, so it was pretty good. Then later on, we're sort of in preparation for the Burkitt. The plans we'd laid back at Brands Hatch were coming to fruition, and we took or at least Scott took the 330D and the Leon to Silverstone for some testing, and it was just an absolute disaster. The BMW just melted the pistons and run away on its own oil. And then the Leon were just overheating all the time, the oil were cooking, couldn't even get a full lap, and literally you'd go out and just have to come straight back in, so literally never even did a flying lap that day, which was so frustrating. But we figured that out in the end, and we went back out again another time. So then October were another busy month. At the start of the month, Scott went straight to Zandvoort and raced in the Super Cup and the Track Day Championship there. Came third in the Track Day Championship, which was as good as we could be considering it was a track he'd never been. I think he'd had half a day's testing, practice sort of the day before, whereas everybody else had been there the year before. A few bits of bad luck for the people we're competing against, but it is what it is. That's racing. So third place in that, pretty good. And then in the Super Cup race, it got even wetter, and Scott had got a decent tyre choice at that point on Uni Royals. A few people didn't bring any wets, and he ended up coming first in class in that race, so really happy with that. And the car came back in one piece, which quite a few people can't say the same about their cars that race. So then I planned to do quite a bit of testing leading up to the Burkitt, but at this point my missus was a few days overdue with our second child, and she ended up giving birth to him. Happy times, but the testing still went on. few more disastrous tests in the Leon, and then me and Scott both turned 30, which is a sad face. So then everything that the preparations for the year had to be ready for the Birkett Enduro, which is the sort of last race of the season for most championships. We knew we still had another race to go, which put a bit of pressure on us, but we knew that we'd be able to do pretty good there. But we'd sort of planned to take the 330D, but that had blown up, we'd not got a chance to fix it. The Leon, we'd had nothing but trouble with, and we knew we'd fixed it, but we'd never tested it. The Ibiza, obviously we knew we had to keep it in one piece, and then we got Dylan racing in his Ibiza as well, and that had not had much prep work leading up to it, so we had to do a little bit on the previous day. We'd had it back at our workshop, and then we started to do a little bit of stuff. And having never been to Birkett before, we weren't expecting any miracles, especially considering the cars weren't all tested as much as we want to do. And then it absolutely lashed it down, and we were just praying that it stayed like that. Put the full wet setups on the car the night before, all the wet tyres on, and we just had an absolutely amazing result. We were so chuffed. We were told that we were leading, sort of half an hour before the end, we were leading on the handicap, not overall because how the race works, but lead on the handicap. And then two cars had a really bad crash. A Mini ended up on top of a Caterham, trying to dry hump it or something. And they called the race early, so we were all cheering and congratulating ourselves. And then it turns out, because it finished early, the guys who were actually ahead of us on track at that point, a few laps down, I believe, so quite a lot slow, but those sort of ahead on that lap ended up being the guys who won. But still really chuffed. Everybody worked so hard to get the Leon ready and do what we need to do with the Mark II Golf to make it race ready, because that was the first time the Mark II had ever raced, the first time the Leon had ever raced, and the wettest race I think anybody who were there has ever raced in. So really happy with that. So also in October, Bobby had took his car to one of the car shows. He got a little 1.6 Golf, and he almost beat the Santapod record of how many runs can be done in one day at 38 by doing 35, and they wouldn't let him do any more even though the track was still open for some reason. I think maybe because he was taking it a bit steadier later on. But really happy with that. Bobby's car's been super reliable and he absolutely kills it everywhere he goes, so really happy with that. Obviously we'd had the problem with the BMW earlier on, so we bought another donor car to take the engine out of rather than rebuilding that one because it was completely goosed. So then on to November. We knew November was going to be a busy month still, because although most people had hung their racing boots up in October, we still had the final race for the Track Day Championship that we were leading at this point, I believe, but it was still all to play for. We had to do a really good finish, and the other guys had to do not a poor finish, but they had to finish behind us for it to work. So I believe if the guy who were in front did a pole position, which he did, and came ahead of us, he'd win. But if we just finished ahead of him by one place, we'd be absolutely fine. Or at least if he didn't have the fastest lap of the race. So it was like literally down to, there was 1 point in it if we didn't do the result that we did. Luckily for us, he tried races out of the pits even though he came in behind, and he got a penalty. So we ended up winning that, which meant we won the championship, which absolutely amazing. The work that we'd done all year to get there, and all the guys had worked hard to get there. Really, really happy with that. And there were so many people there cheering us on that if we didn't do it, it'd be a bit embarrassing. But that just completely took all the pressure off then, because the Golf that we'd got earlier in the year were finally ready. Not completely ready, there's a few bits missing and a few bits not quite how I wanted them, but the Golf were ready. We'd had tons of problems with the waiting testing the days before this race, but we'd overcome all of those, and it meant nicking injectors out of one of the lads' road cars while we were there to get it sorted. But so that just took all the pressure off then. The next races in the Track Day Trophy and the Super Cup were just for fun. So we got the Leon and the Golf dusted off. Got a plan in place if we had any problems with either one of them that we could still put the Ibiza in there, because the Ibiza were done with now, we didn't need to do anything else with that. So did those races, and a little bit disappointing that we didn't have time before them to power test the cars, because both of them would have come home with trophies with the results that we had in the races. And we did something a little bit crazy, that we swapped. In one of the races we swapped drivers, but in one of the races me and Scott actually swapped cars, which I don't think anybody had ever done that before. Please correct me if anybody knows a race that's been done in before. But we swapped cars halfway through, completely fluffed the pit stop, and then I put the lane into the gravel. So a bit embarrassing, but we still did well anyway. So really happy. The pace that we showed at the lane and the Golf had really impressed everybody. We also had the best ever Black Friday we'd ever had. We did like a month and a half's worth of orders in basically 48 hours. So really happy with that. So then on to December, final month of the year, but still no time for rest for us. We got rid of the Ibiza that had gone, did a swap for the KTM that you see in the background. That Ibiza's going to go racing wheels next year, so hopefully see it again. We've got everything in place, it's pretty much race ready when we let it go, so hopefully Grant's going to bring that with his son Michael, and they're going to campaign it with us. After quite a lot of contemplating, we also decided that we want to focus on crazy project cars for 2020 and just racing the Golf, and potentially, if we need to, if I want to go racing at the same time as Scott, the BMW. Because we wanted to do that, we decided the best idea was to let Nick have the car back. It was still in a decent state. Obviously one of the wheels had been smashed in the Birkit and somebody banged into the wing, but it was still in a decent state. It was drivable still for him, you know what I mean, still track dayable. So we organised him meeting with us on a track day and giving him back, and he went out in it and he was so impressed with what we'd done and how the car drove, that rather than racing his ex-touring car Toledo, which has obviously got a petrol engine, he's decided the best idea is going to be race that, because it's literally ready to go, whereas this Toledo needs a lot more work. So a few little sort of customisations to him for his personal taste, and then he's going to be racing that alongside us again next year, so there's going to be a fair few diesel cars racing next year. Another sad day for us, that the A5 competition ended and a guy from York called James won it, and he's also said he wants to come to some track days with us this year, so really happy with that. It's worked out absolutely perfect, which whoever won it I'd have been happy for him, but it's worked out nice that we can take that to some track days still, so it's not just disappeared into the abyss and we'll never see it again. So then we finally decided that the A4 that Scott bought, that should have been a Quattro, that turned out to be front wheel drive, that we're going to swap that with Scott's girlfriend's Scirocco, so she's in that now, and she can deal with the wheel spinning rather than our dyno and the road when we're trying to make 500 horsepower from that project. So then to summarise this year, hopefully this video's not been too long and drawn out, and Danny's edited it to make it less monotone and boring than my voice has made it. But this year's been absolutely amazing. Really, really happy with how all the teams worked. We're definitely going to push things even harder next year. But this year, 2019, has just been absolutely amazing. We've done everything we set out to do. We won the championships we set out to do. We set the world record. We've done absolutely everything. Really happy. The vlogging has just pushed us into a totally new sort of avenue that we never expected to be. We just did it for a little bit of cataloguing, a little bit of fun, and we were only intending really to do it on that A5, and then it just got so popular. Went from 4,000 subscribers at the beginning of the year to 23,000 or something at this point. 3.5 million views on all his videos combined. There's some that's got a couple of 100,000, obviously the Bora got 300,000. So really happy with that side of things. Had a week off for Christmas. It felt like a day or two at most. It went so quick, and then we're straight back in for 2020. So there'll be another video coming, saying what we're doing, what we're planning, and where we're going to go for 2020. So keep watching. Thank you to all the subscribers and all the viewers. I'm sure there'll be some more competitions that will make it worthwhile sticking around. Thank you.